All right, for today's video, we have another property update for you. We are chatting all about some of our new ideas for the property, so let's dive into it. Welcome back to our channel. We're Steph and Katie from Let's See the World. This is Theo, our star. Yeah, if you are new here, welcome. And if you are not new here, welcome back. We have another property update for you today in our saga of property updates. So if you're not caught up, you can go back and watch the playlist of all of our property news. But yeah, today we wanted to give you the latest update. So let's get into it.
Yeah, we recently went back to the property for the day, so we, got to walk around again, measure some things, kind of brainstorm a little bit about some ideas and some places on the property that things could go. We did do a vlog where we tour around, so if you want to get a visual of what the actual property looks like, go back and watch that one, and then this will make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, we filmed a whole kind of tour walking around, talking about what we're thinking for each specific spot. And we even found a couple new spots on the property that are new favorites of ours that we have some cool ideas for. So yeah, go back and watch that one if you want to be caught up. But today we are talking about a new idea that we have that we still can't decide about, but we wanted to share with you and also get some of your input and feedback as well.
Yeah, this particular idea has definitely jumped to the top of my list.
Yeah,
and it's kind of
very invested.
I'm very into it. I think it would be great. And that idea is a tiny home.
Yeah, so previously we've been talking about RVs, Airstreams, different kind of options. We mentioned, camper vans in the beginning, and then we kind of landed on the idea of a towable RV, a trailer style RV, because we don't plan to drive it anywhere. We plan to just get it to the property and park it. So having a camper van doesn't really make sense. We don't need something that can be driven. So things like Airstreams and stuff like that were definitely making a lot of sense. We stayed in an Airstream recently. It was very cool. We loved it. But we're still just torn on the idea of how much space we actually feel like we'll need. And then obviously cost is a big factor as well. So we just can't decide.
Yeah. So basically the thing with the tiny house is that a lot of them are certified mobile homes because they're on a trailer, and if you keep them on the trailer, they are basically considered in the same classification as an RV.
Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah. So in terms of zoning, bylaws, etc., it is considered a movable recreation vehicle, I guess. Unlike something like a cottage, which is obviously a permanent structure, and there are rules on how many separate cottages that are dwellings that you can have on the property. We did mention this in one of our previous videos.
Yeah, a few of you have asked why we don't build a cabin or a small cottage or something before we build the house. And that's obviously a great idea. And the reason why we haven't considered it is because we're not technically allowed. Because of the size of the property, we are limited to one permanent dwelling on the property. So that will eventually be the house. So we can't build anything else that would be considered a permanent dwelling before that. So a cabin or a cottage or anything like that would fall in that category.
Yeah, so essentially we can have auxiliary buildings on the property, things like garages, greenhouses,
a dome,
a
sauna,
even something like a bunkie, which I don't know if that's a universal term, but in BC anyway, it's a little cabin that you can sleep in. But I think what makes something a dwelling is a kitchen.
Yeah.
So even something like an office or a gym, that's all considered auxiliary buildings, and we are allowed to have those away from the main house, the eventual main house. But basically, a cottage or a cabin would be considered a dwelling because, of course, we would have a kitchen in there. Yeah. So as well as auxiliary buildings, the other thing that we can have on the property is a mobile home, something that's considered temporary or movable.
So an RV would fall under that category, which is why that is what we've been considering.
Yeah.
But a tiny house would also fall under that category. Yeah. And the benefits of a tiny house, even though it's tiny, it's a lot bigger than an RV.
Yeah, they typically are a lot bigger. They're typically higher. So they'll have, loft space. Basically, the bigger ones, you can have a bedroom on the main floor and sleeping spaces in 2 lofts above.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is a lot of space.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would want to have 6 people sleeping in at the same time. It's a little tight, but you could.
Yeah.
And essentially, you would have about up to about 250 square feet on the main level, and then with the loft space, it like bumps it up to 3 something. So
Which is
that's
pretty
decent.
decent,
That's decent
yeah.
for sure.
Because what we found in our Airstream stay, especially, is that we really need a proper workspace.
Yeah.
Like, we both need a proper workspace where we can set up our computers. Obviously, we need like a comfortable sleeping area, a proper bathroom, a proper shower,
Kitchen.
and then a kitchen is really important too. Like, those are the things that will mean that we can actually go spend some proper time there. So the more space we have, the more comfortable it is, the more we'll be able to use it. And so that's why that's looking like an attractive idea.
Yeah.
So let's just chat a little bit about kind of the main pros and cons of like an RV versus a tiny home, because I feel like we just even need to talk this out to try and like figure out what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's kind of go through it.
One of the major pros for a tiny house versus an RV, of course, is proper insulation. A tiny home is essentially like made for 4 seasons, whereas typically RVs are not. There are, of course, winterized RVs that you can use year round, and they have like kind of beefed up insulation and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, heating and cooling a tiny home is a lot more energy efficient, and energy usage is something, of course, that we want to consider. Obviously, we want to be mindful of our footprint, but also being on the Gulf Islands, sometimes those resources are limited. Sometimes there are power outages in the winter, and you need to run, a backup.
Yeah.
Or you need to have things like a fireplace heating the place when the power goes out. So those are all options that are a lot more feasible for a tiny house versus an RV.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that is actually something that people had asked us about. The winters in Vancouver are mild, so an RV could be used year round here. It's not like we're in anywhere else in Canada, essentially, where winters are like minus 40.
Yeah.
We really don't get below like, -5 typically in the winter.
Yeah.
So an RV is definitely usable year round, but a tiny house would be more comfortable and also more energy efficient.
Yeah, those are all obviously really important factors that we're looking at. The main difference obviously is cost. Like an RV, there's a big range as well, depending on if we're getting something secondhand, if we're getting something that's been converted, all of those things. But, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars versus a tiny house where you're looking at over 100,000. So it's a big difference. It's obviously a big decision as well, and a difference between, having to finance something or maybe not. And so I just can't decide. I just don't know. And it's also like the timing of like getting something there sooner versus not, because we've seen some really cool companies here in BC that do tiny homes, and they do like custom builds, and it's really incredible, and they look so amazing. We'll put some photos up here so you can see, like, they're gorgeous. They're so nice. Definitely something that we could, have there long term, like keep it there after we build the house, and like, yeah, they look amazing. But it would take longer. It would be more expensive and all of that. So I just don't know, because an RV, we could potentially like get it there quicker, like for the springtime even. So
you can probably tell who's in the camp of going more the RV route and who's in the camp of going the tiny house route, because I will add another pro.
Yeah.
And, the thing about the Gulf Islands is they're not super easy to get stuff to.
Yeah.
You always have to take a ferry or, bring something over on a barge. Even just to do things like a septic system. You're looking at bringing a crew from either one of the islands, the other islands, or the main island, or the mainland.
Yeah.
So anytime you do anything, it's going to be a big production, essentially. So, bringing an RV over temporarily is a great idea, but then, you have to bring it over, and then you have to get rid of it. Like, if you drive around the Gulf Islands, you'll see lots of old RVs on people's properties, because things like that are just really hard to get rid of or get off the island.
Right.
When you don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
So, it may seem like, oh, this is way easier, but, it's also something you have to deal with later when you don't want it anymore. You want to, like, upgrade, or you want to change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas with the tiny home, because we would want to have it there for longer.
Yeah.
If we're going to have to bring everything in or do a septic system and everything, and, like, kind of, we may as well do it
Properly.
properly is what I'm leaning toward.
I do get that, yeah, because an RV I see as something that would work for a little while, maybe like a season or two, and then we would it would be a stepping stone, and we would kind of upgrade from there, because we want to keep sort of building on this to eventually get to a place where we, like, have a house and we can spend a bunch of time there and everything like that. A tiny house would definitely be a more, like, permanent, like, first step. And something that, we could keep there once we later build down the line and have it act like as a cottage and have it be like a guest space and stuff like that, which would be amazing. But it's just harder to get to that step because it's a lot more money, and just logistically it's more difficult because it'll just take longer to get it built and everything like that. So it is a matter of, like, time and money and priorities, and, like, if our priority is to get something fast, or to get something that'll be, like, more comfortable and more permanent, or to just get something that'll be the most affordable, or get something that's, like, a better investment down the line. So
I'll add another pro. We had talked about, whether it's an RV or a tiny house, we had talked about building a really nice deck space. Obviously, we want to take advantage of the beautiful nature that we are surrounded by, so having outdoor space is so key.
Yeah.
So having an RV and then building a deck on, you would lose that or you'd have to rebuild it, or you'd have to take it apart, because, of course, you're going to build it custom to the structure that you have.
Right.
So, again, it's kind of like doing things twice, or doing things over again, because you would just have to. Whereas you can do it once, do it properly, and then you have that longevity, which just, like, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. I totally get it. Yeah. And I don't know, it's a big decision, obviously, and we're still trying to figure it out. But yeah, if you saw our last vlog, there's a perfect spot that would be perfect for either an RV or a tiny house. We measured it out, and really you could do either one. It's big enough to do either.
Yeah, that space is about 38 feet as it is. So there is a little bit more space on either side to kind of clear.
Yeah.
And tiny houses, I think the max size is maybe 40 or 42 feet, which is big.
Yeah.
And especially with the loft space, like that's a fairly big space. And obviously we'd want to bring it in and then build a deck off of the front, so you can, take advantage of the beautiful view.
Yeah.
But it is all doable. Either way, it's doable. And it's really just a matter of, like, when we want to do things, how we want to do it, and when we want to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's tough because obviously we have a lot of other things going on too. If you watched our last video, we announced some exciting things about our documentary. The main one being that we are doing a second season, so we are starting filming for that very soon, through this fall and winter. So that's going to be keeping us very busy. And to realistically get something like there for next spring and summer, I just don't know how realistic that is. If we do a tiny house, I think that would probably take longer. And so if we want something there for next, like, season, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. I just don't know.
But
who is Team Steph and who is Team Katie? I feel like I'm being the practical one in this scenario.
Oh, but let's hear this, because this is very practical. While we're working on our documentary, the tiny house people can be making the tiny house in their facility through the winter.
I mean, in theory, but that would mean making, like, a financial commitment now, and, like, making the decision now. And it is a big financial commitment, because obviously buying this property was a big financial commitment, and we didn't do it that long ago. So it's another investment, really. It's another investment, and it's a big decision.
But a smart investment.
Yeah, I do think it would be a smart investment. But it would also make, like, the overall cost of, like, the big plan that much more. Because obviously building a house is also going to be very expensive.
Yeah, it might set us back in terms of the timeline for the house.
Which is maybe okay. Yeah, it would definitely set us back, because that's definitely money that would go toward a build. But having something there that's, like, super comfortable and beautiful and amazing and functional and practical for us to actually go and use, having
something right away would be really nice.
Well, yeah, but something that we could use for a couple years and be good.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, then have more time to, save money and plan for a build to be able to really do that properly as well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like inside our marriage right now, like listening to our conversation.
Conflict.
No, just like this is how we talk things out. There's
I
just
know,
like
I'm just
so many
kidding. That's really
factors.
not conflict at all. It's just like, though, on the rare occasion that we have kind of different opinions or ideas about things, and even so, we're still very much on the same page. So
Yeah. No, ultimately, we'll make the decision that makes the most sense, and I think that that decision will reveal itself. Like the right answer will reveal itself soon.
ultimately, it's Theo's decision.
Right.
So whatever Theo wants goes.
Theo, what do you want? What do you want? Obviously, having something there for next season would be incredible, and there are so many things that I want to do. And yeah, I wonder if we did a tiny house, would it just be that? Would that take away kind of from the other things as well? Because those are all little costs too that would add up. Like doing a dome, which I think would be really cool for an office, which maybe we wouldn't need if we did a tiny house, but I still think it'd be really cool. And there's like the perfect spot for it. It's like literally cleared just for a dome. Perfect. It's so cute. And doing like a barrel sauna would be incredible. We saw one at the home show last weekend, and I fell in love with it. They're so nice. And there's a perfect spot for one too.
And another local company.
Yeah, and another local company, which is great. And there's just, so much we could do with the outdoor space to make it really incredible. So yeah, would we have the capacity to do like all of that? And I mean, obviously we don't have to do it all right away. We can like do little bits at a time, and that's the whole point, is to kind of like build on it as we go. But there's also limited time with the weather too, like to work on it. Because there are a lot of months that, it's going to be too cold and rainy and things like that, and we just won't be able to get out there.
If we had a tiny house, we could. Yeah, obviously there's a lot to consider, and like Katie said, the nice thing about the ideas we have is that we can kind of build a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Obviously, other than like the house itself or the tiny house or the that main kind of structure, but with like the saunas and little decks and things, like we can kind of do little bits here and there. So yeah, I mean, it's really just like pricing it all out, seeing what's feasible and what our top priorities are. I think
that's what we need to do, is we need to make like a budget spreadsheet and make some lists.
Katie's favorite thing is to make lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we have a lot of ideas, and obviously they're all very exciting, but just to make sure, that we're clear on what makes the most sense and what is reasonable and doable. Yeah. I have a feeling Steph is going to get her way on this one, which I'm not mad about. I love the idea too. I really love the idea.
Me get my way?
Yeah, so we would love to hear your thoughts. Clearly, we are undecided.
So yeah, tell us if you're Team Steph or Team Katie. Or Team Theo, undecided.
Undecided, yeah. But if any of you have any experience with tiny houses as well, stayed in one, lived in one, I don't know, built one, anything like that. We've only stayed in a tiny house once ever. And it was really cute. It was really tiny. It was really small.
Yeah.
But it was really cute, and I really like the ones that Steph's been looking at. They're beautiful. They're very, very nice, and yeah, I love the idea of going with like a local company that could do a custom build, and we would get to have all the choices and all the things we would want, all the features we would want, and everything like that. It would be very cool. So we'll see. So give us your thoughts. Tell us what you're thinking, and yeah, I'm interested to know everyone's opinions.
Yeah. Team Steph. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting, enjoyable. I don't know, getting a little insight into our conversations that we have all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and please give this video a thumbs up.
Yeah, and we will keep you posted. We'll keep you updated. I feel like these are some decisions we're going to have to make soon. We're going to have to decide what we're doing, especially if we want to do something for next spring. Like, we will have to start making those decisions now to get the ball rolling and everything like that. So yeah, we'll keep you posted. Either way, I feel like one of the next steps is going to be like going to look at things in person. Like, I think going to look at a tiny house and like just look at it and be in it.
Being in it would
like,
really help.
And to really see like what actually makes sense. And same thing with RVs and Airstreams and everything like that. Like, just getting a sense of, what actually would work best for us and for what we're looking for, to actually go look at some. So hopefully we'll have time to do that with everything else we have going on. And if we do, we will, bring you along with us and keep you posted and everything like that. Because it's going to be a fun little journey either way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so until next time.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. We will see you soon, and thanks for being here. And yeah, catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.